Welcome to In Focus on this Sunday, November 2nd, 2025. I'm Cheryl Wills. In a couple of days, voters will head to the polls for one of the most consequential elections in recent memory. It feels like the entire nation is watching the mayor's race here in New York City. The housing crisis. On the flip side of the ballot, voters will decide the future of affordable housing. Plus, all 51 seats in the city council up for grabs, as well as public advocate and city controller. But again, all eyes on the mayor's race. Our guests on this Sunday, Democratic nominee and frontrunner Zohran Mamdani. What he says about his plan to freeze the rent and make all buses free. Independent candidate Andrew Cuomo is also with us. Why he wants to hire 5,000 more police officers. And Republican nominee Curtis Sliwa tells us about his plan to keep Rikers Island open despite the federal mandate to close it. This as a record number of early voters cast their ballots before today's deadline at 5 p.m. Our special hour-long edition of In Focus happening now. Let's begin with Queens Assemblyman and Democratic nominee for Mayor Zohran Mamdani. Mr. Mamdani, good to see you again.
It's lovely to be back. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So we want to start this way for all of the candidates. All three of you are on the show. If elected, what's your top priority on day one in City Hall?
Taking on the cost of living crisis. It's been the top priority since we launched this campaign on October 23rd of last year. It'll continue to be the top priority. And one of the first ways we do so is using the mayor's powers around the Rent Guidelines Board. It's composed of 9 appointees, all of whom appointed by the mayor. This is the board Eric Adams has used to raise the rent on more than 2 million New Yorkers by more than 12%. That is the board that would deliver a rent freeze when I'm the mayor for 4 years.
Okay, so let's talk about the rent freeze.
Please.
Because so many people want to hear about that.
Yes.
How would you get it done? If anyone makes under $60,000 in this city, it's almost impossible to find affordable housing. So exactly, once you appoint that board, you say you'll do that, get the ball rolling on day one. How long would it take to actually freeze the rent?
Well, what you see is that the board will make an annual determination, that Rent Guidelines Board. Every year under Adams, it has made the determination to raise the rent. And what I'm talking about is actually something that's borne out in the statistics. And what I mean by that is that the Rent Guidelines Board did a study last year. They found that the median household income of tenants, $60,000 a year. They found that the profits of landlords of those units was up by 12%. And still they looked at that and said, let's raise the rent again. And what my board will actually look at is what New Yorkers deserve, what the facts already bear out, and that will be that freeze. And that'll be a decision made every year, once a year, on the question of will there be a rent hike or a freeze. I've said for 4 years of my administration, it would be a freeze.
Okay, so let's talk about free buses.
Yes,
That's something else that, and you know General Lieber, MTA boss, was skeptical about the program. He spoke to our Pat Kiernan and he said, well, this needs to be studied. It's going to affect the bond market. Your reaction to his skepticism?
Well, look, I think you've heard from the MTA time and time again of things that should be studied or things that will actually come about, and we're still waiting for them, right? It was decades ago the MTA said they would do all-door boarding on local buses. Still not a reality. What we've seen is when we made 5 bus routes free, 1 in each borough, and that's something I was proud to win in Albany, we saw an increase in ridership of up to 38%. We saw no increase in homelessness within those same buses. And we saw a decrease in assaults on bus operators by 38.9%. So we've seen the studies, we've actually seen them play out. And what we found in additional research that's been done is this would generate about $1.5 billion in economic benefits for the city of New York. So I'm excited to get to work to make this a reality for New Yorkers.
Do you think it needs to be studied, as General Lieber suggested?
I think the study's already played out in front of our eyes, and I think it's time to start to do the work.
Okay, and what if a lot of people who take the subway say, oh, the buses are free, I'm going to take the subway every single day, and then the bus routes are overwhelmed. Have you considered that?
Well, I think we absolutely need more buses today, regardless of anyone moving their mode of transit from the subway to the bus, because what we've found is many New Yorkers' experience of using the bus is actually waiting for the bus. They are waiting minute after minute. Sometimes you look at your bus time app, you think it's coming in 8 minutes, 6 minutes, 4 minutes, and then it disappears. And it's as if it was never coming in the first place. So I think we need more frequency no matter what happens. I also think that we have so much more room for New Yorkers to be using public transit, that whether some New Yorkers get off the train and take the bus, if we show that public transit is the most efficient way to get around the city, we'll actually get people out of cars and onto the bus, which is what we saw when we made buses free.
Last question on this time frame, because people want to know, oh, the day, if you're elected, they want to know, oh, the next day, can I take the bus free? So what's the time frame looking like for that?
I always only want to make promises that I can keep.
Right.
And I could tell you one of the first orders of business is going to be to getting into City Hall and starting to lay out the implementation schedule of making buses free, delivering universal childcare. These are things that I will share New Yorkers the time frame of it as we start to get to that work.
Okay, let's talk about the free grocery stores. You want to set up 5...
Cheaper groceries.
Cheaper groceries. Yes. So if elected, you want to create 5 city-run nonprofit grocery stores, one in every borough, right?
Yes.
How do you make sure they're not competing with the local bodegas?
Well, there are a number of things. The first thing, and I'm very excited to have the endorsement of the United Bodegas of America. This was an endorsement from UBA just a few days ago, represents thousands of bodegas across New York City. And what I've heard from bodega owners is, one, that their top revenue source comes from lotto tickets and from cigarettes. I have no interest in having city-owned grocery stores selling these kinds of items. What we're talking about is access to food, access to produce, because it's not just a crisis of affordability, it's also a crisis of hunger and food deserts. You know, I represent Queensbridge Houses in Queens, largest public housing development in North America. I've heard from many constituents, why is it I can find a fast food restaurant in a 5-block radius, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those restaurants, but I can't find a grocery store I can either afford or with healthy produce. When you're only doing it at 1 in each borough, you can make sure that you're fulfilling all of these needs in the same way without creating that kind of competition, instead creating access.
Okay, let's talk public safety quickly. You made news during the final debate that was sponsored by New York One. You said you would keep Jessica Tisch as police commissioner. Explain why.
You know, I've appreciated that when Commissioner Tisch was appointed, she came into an NYPD that Eric Adams had stacked the upper echelons of with incompetence and corruption. And what she did is start to root that out, start to deliver accountability, and reduce crime across the 5 boroughs. And I'm looking forward to building on that record under a Mamdani administration, in addition to creating the Department of Community Safety, to actually focus on the issues of the mental health crisis and homelessness, and ensure that police officers can do police work, and mental health outreach teams will actually address the mental health crisis.
Has she responded to you at all? Has she pitched to stay on as police commissioner?
I've had conversations with her in public. I spoke to her once in private after Detective Diderul Islam was murdered. She said time and again when she's been asked about this that she doesn't comment on the politics of the race, and I appreciate that because she is working for the city today. Okay,
so I'm excited to talk to you about an emotional speech you gave. We're going to do it after the break, about Islamophobia. You were very emotional. I want to touch on that. Thanks for staying with us for our next segment. Zohran Mamdani will be here right after this quick break.
My time growing up in Queens watching New York One to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood. Because our city never stops moving.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories. But first, stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything. Movies, series, sports, reality, news.
Here's a look at today's top stories.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
And even more of your favorites with live TV. Stream across your devices and enjoy anywhere.
See you later.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn return to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Burke.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on the Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
I want to use this moment to speak to the Muslims of New York City. I want to speak to the memory of my aunt. Who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab.
That's Zohran Mamdani on October 24th, giving an emotional speech about Islamophobia. Mr. Mamdani, you know, you clearly got choked up there talking about your family, your aunt. What's your message to New Yorkers of other faiths who may be either intimidated by you and all of the rhetoric that's going on?
Well, you know, what I would say to any New Yorker is that all of us belong here. And it was so meaningful for me that just 2 days after that speech, I went to Abyssinian Church and Reverend Johnson gave a sermon, in part a response to my words, and he looked at me and he said, "Zohran, you are enough." And I think that there are so many New Yorkers who have been made to feel as if that is not the case, made to feel as if they have to narrow themselves or shrink themselves into a box to be something that can be tolerated in the place that they call home. And what we're looking to build is a city that has room for everyone as they already are, not as people might need them to be. And I'm excited to help lead that city.
You know, many New Yorkers are hearing democratic socialism and they don't know what that means. And of course, that's being widely misinterpreted. Tell our viewers what it means to be a democratic socialist and how, if elected, that would inform your policies in City Hall.
You know, Dr. King decades ago said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism. There must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country. And to me, that rings true today just as much as it did when he said it, because we're looking at a city where it's the wealthiest city in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, and you have 1 in 4 New Yorkers living in poverty. My belief is in the dignity of each and every New Yorker. City government's job is to deliver that dignity. It's not a question of what people would like, what they would want. It's in fact a question of what people need. People need to be able to have a roof over their heads. People need childcare. People need public transit. And yet each of these things they are being priced out of day after day.
Okay, and that speaks to the fact that on Thursday night, you were at Elmhurst Hospital meeting with nurses. What did you learn from that experience? And you spent quite a few hours there.
Yeah, it was truly a privilege to spend some time at around 11:30, 11:45 p.m. working and speaking to those who work the night shift in our city. You know, we talk about our city as the city that never sleeps, but we rarely think about those who are not allowed to sleep at the hours that we are at home resting. And these were nurses who told me that they were going in for a 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift. And one of them said, "I'm hoping it's a good shift." I said, "What does that mean?" And she said, "I hope the machines work. I hope that there's an actually reasonable ratio of patients to staff. I hope that I can just get through this so that I can get to the next day to do it all over again." I spoke to another woman who told me she worked there for 10 years. She works the 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. shift. And she says she does that because the lab has to be open 24 hours. And as she was leaving, she whispered in my ear, said, "Make sure you take care of the FDNY paramedics." She said, "That's my son. That's where he works." These are the families that keep this city going. And the question I was asked again and again was, what are you going to do about Donald Trump? And I'm being asked this question because of the fact that New Yorkers know it's a moment in time where we have a choice, right? I went through a primary election where Andrew Cuomo spent the entirety of it on the premise that he was going to be the candidate best suited to take on Donald Trump. I beat him by 13 points, and then almost immediately, he got on his hands and knees and begged for Donald Trump's help in winning this election. He asked for Donald Trump's help, he asked for the help of Donald Trump's donors, and now here we are with just 4 days to go. And what I have concluded is the same thing as many New Yorkers have concluded, which is that if you're so busy begging for help, you're not going to be able to stand up to the president that New Yorkers are crying out for someone to hold to account.
So that begs the question, what would you do about President Trump if elected? Because a few days ago, ICE swooped down on Canal Street without warning, without asking the police commissioner Tisch or anyone else. They detained people, they arrested people. Many considered it a lawless act. if elected, and this happens again on your watch, what would you do?
I think the first thing is bring an end to the chapter in New York City history we've seen under Eric Adams. This is a man who went on national television and opened the door to civil immigration enforcement. I would make it clear that everyone will be held to the same law, whether we're talking about Donald Trump or his ICE agents. If you break the law in this city, you should be held to account. And that is something that every New Yorker wants to see because they want to see consistency.
Are you saying you would send our police to arrest ICE?
I'm not looking for a fight with the federal government, but if the federal government is violating the law, if they are violating the law in the manner which we have seen them do elsewhere in this country, they deserve to be held to account. And this is what you've heard Democratic leaders say across this country because people are tired of exceptions being made. You just said that these acts were described by many as being lawless. I think that's an accurate description. We're talking about a reckless entity that cares little for the rule of law and even less for the people that they serve. And meanwhile, we have a mayor who knows that his personal freedom is tied up with his willingness to enforce the federal government's immigration agenda, so he's not even willing to tell New Yorkers of the rights that they do have. And that's my job. My job is to stand up for our sanctuary city policies. My job is to tell parents across the city, you can send your children to schools because our schools will not let ICE agents into them unless they have a judicial warrant signed by a judge. And most of the time, they don't have that. They're just relying on intimidation and fear, and that politics has to end.
What we're going to do with each candidate, you're the first, is to allow you to speak directly to our viewers. 1 minute, your final pitch before Election Day.
Thank you so much. Well, what I would say to New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs is if you are happy with the Eric Adams administration, vote for Andrew Cuomo. If you are happy with Donald Trump feeling a sense of impunity in sending ICE agents into this city, vote for Andrew Cuomo. He's the man who told us not to overreact when those same agents were sent to Los Angeles. If you are happy with looking for apartments in Jersey City, with endless rent hikes, with waiting for buses that never come, vote for Andrew Cuomo. If you believe that it is time for change, that it is time for the most expensive city in the United States of America to be affordable for the people who built it, then vote for me. I am the only candidate who has a vision for what our city's future could be, because that's what I'm looking to build, not just relitigating the past that we've all survived. It's time to actually build a future that looks more like the one that brought us to this city in the first place.
Democratic nominee for Mayor Zohran Mamdani, appreciate your time.
Always a pleasure.
Thank
you so much.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
My name is Gail, and we are in my showroom for Floor's Fire Design House. Getting Spectrum set up for my business was extremely smooth. They had it set up within an hour, and I was online and ready to go and run my business. Spectrum helps me stay online. You know, I have to be able to be online at 5 a.m. when the market's open. Without Spectrum, it wouldn't be possible.
Get your business free fiber-powered internet forever. Call to find out how.
In Focus with Cheryl Wills, a weekly show discussing decisions and potential solutions for issues making an impact in your community and your city. If it's important to New Yorkers, then it's being talked about here. In Focus with Cheryl Wills, Sunday mornings at 10:30 on New York One.
We have our next candidate now, former governor and independent nominee for mayor Andrew Cuomo. Hey, it's good to see you in our newsroom.
Good to be back with you.
Absolutely. So we want to start off, as we do with all of the candidates. On day one, what's your top priority in City Hall?
Day one. Day one, a little different twist. People have to believe in New York again and believe in the future. We have to get our confidence back, right? We're losing people, we're losing businesses. So first, make people feel safe, public safety. We have the lowest number of police officers that we've had in modern political history. I want to hire 5,000 more police officers, 1,500 in the subways, which is where people really feel unsafe. Second, the affordable housing problem is really dire. And there's only one answer to that. There's no gimmick, there's no housing fairy that's going to wave a wand. You have to build more housing. And we know how to do that, but you need a competent government that's aggressive, that actually gets it done. And I would like to get 100,000 done in the first year. And that would increase the supply, it would bring the rents down. Third, we have to say to our corporate citizens, we like you, we like business, we want you to stay, we want you to grow, we want jobs in New York, we don't want you leaving. We understand we have to lower taxes, we have to lower regulations, we have to clean up the place, but reaching out to the corporate sector and saying, let's figure out how you grow and we grow together.
So let's take that bit by bit. You say 5,000 new officers. How are you going to make that happen? There's such a problem with recruitment right now. Is it the bonus that you hope will attract them?
Well, Cheryl, I think it's, look, the city created this, the political, not the city government, the political ideology of the city, really over the past 7, 8 years. Defund the police, defund the police. They took $1 billion out of the police, like the police were the problem. And they demoralized the police. You know, the opponent, my opponent in this race, the NYPD is racist, they are wicked, they are corrupt. And then you want to put on a uniform every day and go out there and risk your life? So part of it is, I think we have to raise the salary. Part of it is they have to know that they're going to be respected and you want them and the mayor's going to have their back and that they're part of the solution, not part of the problem. It's a morale issue. You know, we have the highest attrition rate in history. Part of that is because they're short-staffed and they have to work overtime. Part of that is they just feel that they're treated as the bad guy, and that has to change.
And explain why you plan to keep on Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch.
I think she's doing a very good job.
What is it about her good job that makes you want to keep her on?
I think New Yorkers feel confident in her. I think the crime numbers have dropped in certain categories. I think she's been a welcome relief. And the NYPD has had ups and downs. She's been a stabilizing force. So I think, you know, if it's not broke, especially in this situation, don't try to fix it.
But there are pockets, as you know, of crime still that are off the charts in central Brooklyn and Brownsville and the South Bronx. If elected mayor, Mr. Cuomo, what would you do about those high-risk areas?
Well, precision policing is right. I think the staffing is so low now that they're not doing it as efficiently and effectively as they can. Because you can target literally the areas that are creating the highest crime rates. You can target the individuals who are most probably going to commit the crime. And then you have what's called precision policing. So then deploy in those specific areas. I think one of the issues now is they're so short-staffed, they don't have the ability to do that. But when you get back to full staff, that would be the first thing you would do. Precision policing, target the areas directly. Bronx has the highest numbers all across the board.
And what about stop and frisk? You talk about precision policing, but then when you get to stop and frisk, that's an issue that many New Yorkers have a problem with.
Well, stop and frisk It's not just that New Yorkers have a problem with it. It's illegal if not done properly. So we went all through that. I went through that as Attorney General.
Yes.
You know, that is a basic constitutional right.
Okay, let's talk about the affordability crisis. You talked about building more affordable housing inside the first year. What would you do that this current administration hasn't done and as it relates to affordable housing? I think the government has to take it on as a project. You know, there is opposition to everything, Cheryl. You say, you know, this is the New York way. You propose you say you're going to change a light bulb. The next day there's a committee to preserve old light bulbs, you know. You go to build housing, yes, there's going to be opposition. I guarantee it. But you have to lean into it. Let the government take the lead. Identify the sites, identify the financing, get private developers in, and then help them through the process. Don't make it an obstacle course. You know, it can take 4 years to get a building permit in New York City. I built LaGuardia Airport in 4 years. Thank God I didn't need a permit, you know, or I didn't know I needed a permit. So we can build, we can get things done, but you have to have a competent government that has the experience, the wisdom, top staff, and then you have to make it happen yourself. Nothing is going to happen if the government doesn't affirmatively push to make it happen. Yeah, and before we go to a break, let me just build on that a little bit. There is no problem, as you well know, with construction. The problem is setting aside those affordable housing units. That's where the big fight comes in. So how would you bridge that divide? Because that is always a war that we report on here at New York One.
Yes, there's no doubt. But also there's no doubt that we need both market rate units and specifically set aside affordable housing units. And I would add a caveat, the community should have a preference for those affordable units. What we're doing, Cheryl, in a lot of communities, you see it in Brooklyn, we are bringing in gentrifiers who are displacing people who have lived there their entire life, and they're getting priced out. And that's just wrong. You know, they're changing the characteristics of the neighborhood, and every neighborhood is a little special. And I would have a preference for people from that community for those units.
Okay. Mr. Cuomo, thanks for staying with us. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. In Focus returns right after this. My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
My name is Gail, and we are in my showroom for Florist Fire Design House. We are a full production wedding and event company that focuses on florals. Getting Spectrum set up for my business was extremely smooth. They were here the same day, had it set up within an hour, and I was online and ready to go and run my business. You know, I have to be able to be online at 5 a.m. when the market's open. And if I'm contacting a merchant via email or placing an order online, without Spectrum, it wouldn't be possible.
One more row.
Spectrum is reliable, they're committed, they're fast, and they really take care of me as a business owner. Last year, when the really bad hurricane came through, our internet stayed the entire time. One of the businesses down the street, she was like, wait a minute, how are you still online? And I was like, Spectrum, baby. You gotta get Spectrum.
Get award-winning internet for your business. Up to 4 months free when bundled. Visit spectrum.com/business to learn more.
Here's the deal. People need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 on Spectrum News New York 1. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
New York City owns the system. It owns the system, leases it to the MTA. So this would be a modification of that. In many ways, the place is just too big to effectively manage.
And we're back with Andrew Cuomo. So you really want the city, as you said, they lease it to the MTA. You want the city to take full control of the MTA. How would you manage that?
Well, little caveat. First, I believe in big projects that are transformative, right? LaGuardia Airport. LaGuardia Airport is transformative. You walk through there, you just feel good about New York. Kennedy Airport, the new terminals, you just feel good about New York. 2nd Avenue subway, you know, you just feel good that the city has a future, et cetera. What can we do now that's really transformative for New Yorkers? We talked about confidence level optimism. Clean up the subway, make the subway work better. When I walk into the subway, I don't want to feel like I'm descending into a dungeon, right? And the city subway system with the NYCTA, New York City Transit Authority, is part of the MTA. The MTA is a regional transportation authority. It's very big. It runs from Connecticut to Long Island. And it's a slow-moving bureaucracy. Should have been broken up a long time ago. But the city owns the NYCTA, leases it to the MTA to operate. I want to adjust that lease relationship where the state, everything remains the same. Just let the city be responsible for the safety, which we are with the NYPD, and we'll boost that, the maintenance, the cleanliness, and the capital construction. The capital construction, there's about $6 billion set aside already in capital construction dollars. It's just that it takes a long time for the MTA to get any project done. And I know this firsthand because I took over projects that were languishing. Moynihan Train Hall I built after 20 years. 2nd Avenue Subway sat there for 30 years. There was a project on the L train tunnel. They were going to close for 2 years. I found a different way to do it. So you could literally restore hundreds of stations.
Yeah, but New Yorkers want to know, if elected, how would you make the subway system safer? I take the subway every day. I do not feel safe. I'm looking left, I'm looking right, especially reporting what's happening all the time. So what would you do in that respect?
Well, 5,000 police, a police officer on every train, a police officer on the platform. Not 4 police officers talking to each other on a cell phone. A police officer on the platform, a police officer on every train. Simple, done before, it works. Mayor David Dinkins had a crime problem when he came in, God rest his soul. What did he do? Hired more police, and just that. Police officer on the train, police officer on the platform.
How would you pay for that?
Well, there will be an increase in the budget, but we can find it from the existing funds. I wouldn't do a tax increase.
And no fare hike.
No fare hike.
You're the only candidate with experience handling President Trump. And recently, ICE swooped down on Canal Street, unannounced, arrested and detained people. It was a big brouhaha. If elected, what would you do from City Hall if you heard that ICE was basically detaining people without cause?
I would call President Trump.
And what would you say?
This has got to stop. This is out of control. And it was out of control. why is ICE policing vendors on Canal Street? Why is ICE involved in whether or not a vendor has a street license, right? That's NYPD, that's Consumer Affairs. That's not the federal government's role. And you have to push back on President Trump. I was governor, he was president, and we had wars, like only New Yorkers can. But, you know, President is a forceful personality, and he puts his finger in your chest, and you have to put your finger right back in his chest. That's what he understands. That's what he respects. And I think we went through so many battles that if he has his druthers, he's not going to look to pick a fight with us. He's really not. When I was governor, he sent National Guard into 20 cities, never into New York. Because what he really does is he's looking for an opportunity to make a statement, right? When he sends in the National Guard, he's saying those Democrats don't know how to run the city. And I have to send in the federal government to keep people safe. That's what he's really saying. But he needs a hook. He needs an excuse. And he can never say, oh, well, Cuomo doesn't know what he's doing and the city is out of control. Now, he said if Mamdani was elected, he would take over New York City, right? Which is the extrapolation of his theory. He says if New York City elects Mamdani, he's 34 years old, he's incompetent, he's a communist, he calls him, and I would have to take over New York City for the good of New York City. I'm the inverse of that. Governor, HUD Secretary, Attorney General, ran the state for 11 years, dealt with major crises. He knows I know how to run government, whether it's New York State or New York City. New York State, by the way, which is much larger and more complicated than the New York City situation.
Okay, before we go, I want to give you an opportunity to give your final pitch to voters. You have 1 minute. You can look right in that camera.
Thank you. I love New York. I am a New Yorker born and bred. It is the greatest city on the planet. But we have work to do. Public safety, affordability, getting jobs back to New York, fixing our public education system. I know how to make government work. I've done it since I've been 18 years old, working with my father. I know how to make change. I will get it done. It's not a time for politicians with false promises and cute ideas that have no basis in reality. We need change that will affect your life and improve your life. I believe this city can have an exciting, exciting future. I think we can make the Big Apple shine brighter than ever before. But we need a government that works, and that takes experience and ability and the talent to do it. You know I can do it. You know I can handle a crisis. We've been through a lot together. Give me the chance to be your mayor. I ask for your vote.
Andrew Cuomo, independent nominee for mayor. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York 1 to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood. Because our city never stops moving.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories. But first,
stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything. Movies, series, sports, reality, news.
Here's a look at today's top stories.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
And even more of your favorites with live TV. Stream across your devices and enjoy anywhere.
See you later.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kids should know.
My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Burke.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on the Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m. My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Burke.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on the Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
Okay, joining us now is Curtis Sliwa, Republican nominee for mayor. Mr. Sliwa, good to see you again.
I think this is the Quinella with you and me. Bye,
I think this is the 5th time. We're really getting to know each other over there. Okay, so I'm starting this way with all the candidates. If elected, what's your top priority on day 1 in City Hall?
Get the insurance back for police officers. People here, qualified immunity. I spoke about that in the debate twice to try to sort of tutor the general public, because they hear qualified immunity. They don't know what that means.
So tell them what that means.
Well, that's the insurance that every civil servant has, so that if they do something in which somebody sues them, they're protected by we, the taxpayers. The police had that stripped from them by the city council in 2021. So that's why they're so tepid. They don't get involved. They don't jump into situations because they are worried. They could be sued. They could lose their house, what little wealth they have. So I got to restore that, because if you don't restore that, you're never going to retain the police you already have. You're never going to recruit the police you need. And their morale is at an all-time low, because they fear every time they go out into the streets, they might be sued by a citizen of ours who can do it then personally to them, and the city corporation council is not defending them.
Okay, so with that said, you've pledged to hire 7,000 additional police officers. Why 7,000?
Oh, we desperately need them. It's 32,500, the numbers that we're at, which are extraordinarily dangerous. A lot of the men and women complain that they have forced overtime because of that. And that's causing all kinds of domestic issues at home. Now, the younger cops, they don't mind working the overtime, because first 5 years, you're probably sleeping on a Castro convertible in the basement of your mom and dad's house. You're not making any money. After 5 years, it gets better. But we need what Rudy Giuliani had. David Dinkins had Safe Streets, Safe Cities with Peter Vallone, who was the Speaker of the council at that time, a special tax that enabled them to hire the cops that were needed. And Rudy has confided in me it would have been very difficult when he beat David Dinkins barely the second time, if he didn't have those additional cops to be able to get the crime down, as he was able to do significantly in the 8 years that he served as our mayor in New York City.
Okay, and if elected, you would also, you said you would keep Jessica Tisch as police commissioner. Explain why.
Stability. There's been such chaos at One Police Plaza. You had Eddie Cabana and his cronies as police commissioner. They were selling promotions, selling badges. Worse, below them on the 13th floor, Chief of Patrol is Jeffrey Madry. That was the sequel to Caligula. I mean, it was totally out of control. You had Timothy Pearson. Then you had Phil Banks, an unindicted co-conspirator who was deputy mayor of public safety. The laundry list of key people in One Police Plaza that were tainted. And so Jessica Tisch actually has straightened out One Police Plaza. Now, I'm not in agreement with her street smarts, because she really doesn't have them. But we have enough men and women in the department who can fill in the gaps. Look, if she was willing to serve, I'd certainly welcome her on. But that's really for her alone to make the decision. And The police commissioner I would have as mayor, I leave them alone. I don't appear at their press conferences. I do not for the life of me understand why every time Jessica Tisch has a press conference as the police commissioner, Eric Adams is there. She is in charge of the police department. She will be independent and autonomous. If I have a problem with her, we deal with it behind closed doors.
Okay, let's talk about Rikers. You want to keep Rikers open even though it's legally mandated to close in August of 2027. Why do you want to keep it open?
Well, I think even my two opponents who are for closing Rikers understand that we'll never be able to close it in time.
Why do you think it can't be closed in time?
Because the community jails that have been a boondoggle, first it was $8 billion for 4. Now it's $16 billion for 4. You know how the city operates. Pretty soon it'll be $32 billion for 4. I would turn that into affordable housing. Keep Rikers open. Obviously, the feds, remember, Rikers Island is in receivership. Eric Adams does not control the Department of Corrections running Rikers Island. The federal government oversees it, and so you have to start negotiating. This is where Trump comes in. You don't start bumping chests with Donald Trump like Zohran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo do. You know, they're macho, maniacal. They can't wait to take on Trump. Oh, you sit it down. You say, look, this federal receivership, we can't possibly close it in 2027. We could retrofit it. Right now, there are 10 buildings. 7 of them are operational. There are 3 more we could have for the mental health care inmates that need treatment while they're on the rock. And I think there's room to move. But if you don't have any kind of a working relationship with Donald Trump, you're not even going to get to first base. And I know what a Zohran Mamdani or a Mayor Andrew Cuomo would do. They would blame then everything on Donald Trump because they wouldn't have to take responsibility for the problems.
Okay, so what's your message, if elected, to the families of detainees who have died in DOC custody and who are calling for the jail to be closed?
I certainly know I'm the only person who's ever been locked up on Rikers Island. A few times in the first 13 years of the Guardian Angels when the police were our adversaries and Ed Koch was an adversarial mayor. I know how bad it is there. Well, right now, the toughest job in New York City is the correctional officers. They're on like a 12-hour 911 call. Most are women of color. People don't realize that. Most are Black and Hispanic women who get sexually harassed, sexually preyed upon, sexually assaulted. And the inmates, they give them a timeout. They don't put them in solitary confinement anymore, which is what you used to do. 4-hour timeout, and they put them right back in the same tier with the same female correctional officers, which adds to the problem. So I understand those who have died in Rikers Island or been severely injured who are inmates. I want to make it a lot safer for everybody. But even in community jails, there's no panacea to think it's a brand new jail and you're not going to have these same problems if you don't get control of the facility and let the Department of Corrections, the actual correctional officers, be able to control what goes on in that building. Or the inmates will be controlling it, the Bloods, the Crips, the Trinitarios, MS-13, and all the gangbangers.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We're glad you can stay with us for another segment. Curtis Sliwa joins us with more right after this quick break.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
My name is Gail, and we are in my showroom for Florist Fire Design House. Getting Spectrum set up for my business was extremely smooth. They had it set up within an hour, and I was online and ready to go and run my business. Spectrum helps me stay online. You know, I have to be able to be online at 5 a.m. when the market's open. Without Spectrum, it wouldn't be possible.
Get your business free fiber-powered internet forever. Call to find out how.
In Focus with Cheryl Wills. A weekly show discussing decisions and potential solutions for issues making an impact in your community and your city. If it's important to New Yorkers, then it's being talked about here. In Focus with Cheryl Wills. Sunday mornings at 10:30 on New York One.
Get any call from anybody associated with the Trump administration. Under no circumstance am I taking any job. You can't give me money. I came into this world with nothing. I'll leave with nothing.
We're back with Curtis Sliwa, Republican nominee for mayor. Now, you talked about thumping chests with President Trump, that you wouldn't do it. But, you know, a few days ago, I swooped down on Canal Street and detained vendors. It came out of nowhere. It was a chaotic situation. A teenager from the Bronx was detained. If elected, how would you handle a situation like that?
Well, first off, I'm down there often with the Guardian Angels. We patrol Chinatown. So that's right on the periphery, Canal and Church. The vendors are there all the time. Some are from West Africa, East Africa, and the Chinese. And they're selling knockoff products, some of which may have been stolen. And they just lay it out there, and everybody comes through. It's like a bazaar. It's the NYPD that should be dealing with that, and they do. But what happens is they sweep through the area, they take the contraband, they seize it, they arrest the vendors, and guess what? Because of no cash bail, thank you, Andrew Cuomo, no cash bail, and Alvin Bragg, they're released back into the streets. ICE ventured into this area. I would have had a conversation with Tom Holman and said, no. Let's let the NYPD deal with it. They've been dealing with it for years. Unfortunately, they've been restricted because of no cash bail. DA Alvin Bragg and obviously Andrew Cuomo's no cash bail.
Okay, I want to switch gears and talk about how you would work with the city council. We had Speaker Adrienne Adams here. She's term limited out, and she talked about how things broke down between the mayor's office and the city council, as you know. So how would you work with the city council if elected to get things done?
Well, the benefit of me having raised two boys with Melinda Katz, who is now the Queens DA, Democratic DA, she served many years in council. And she explained to me, this is how you deal with council members. It's called discretionary funds. The mayor controls the trough, so there's the speaker. They have needs in their district. What you'd have to do is go into the districts. There are 51 different districts. Have a town hall meeting. They yell, they scream, they holler. They have sewers for you. Then you have the private meeting with the staff and the council person, and they yell and scream. And when you finally finish, you say, you finish it, all I do is I want one vote from you. And I see you have capital improvement projects. I'm willing to help. Just tell me what's prioritized. That's the way business has always been done. With Eric Adams, the only way to get him in the district was open up a nightclub, have him cut the ribbon, and he'd be there till the break of dawn. So, yeah, and by the way, notice on this Charter Revision Commission, the initiative and referendums, I, the Republican candidate, am the only one who says vote no on the back, no to the city of yes. And Adrienne Adams has lobbied all the Democrats, liberals, and progressives in the council also likewise to vote no. So we're on the same page. Did you ever think that Curtis Sliwa and Adrienne Adams, Speaker of the Council, would be on the same page? Because it's in the best interest of the city. Vote no on the back of the ballot, the City of Yes initiative.
Now, speaking of housing, how would you build more affordable housing? Where would you start?
Cheryl, it's common sense. I walk around the city all the time. According to the real estate board, we have 25 Empire State Buildings full of empty office space that'll never be used again for office space. And it already has the infrastructure in Manhattan. It's got the subways, it's got the schools. So you don't have to invest in that. You retrofit. So you take an empty office building, of which you have many. You can tell at night the lights are off. And then it takes 1 year to turn around and get affordable apartments. To build a brand new affordable building with 300 apartments takes you 5 years from beginning to end. So why not just take the easy pass shortcut route, It's more effective that you get those affordable units available quickly, and you prioritize veterans, families with children. You get the women and children out of the shelters. You know, you have to have a prioritization, a queue, so that we can take care of our own people who are in desperate need. Because we're never taking care of our own people. Families in shelters, come on. Veterans in shelters, what a shanda. What a disgraziata. You know what those two terms are, don't you?
Yeah, I watch my movies. So you have 1 minute. Your final pitch to voters.
I am the real New Yorker. Born in New York. They try to kill me in New York. I'll die in New York. I'll be buried in New York. I am the Republican populist, blue-collar worker supporter that is not being represented in this election by either Zohran or Andrew Cuomo. And for those of you who would never vote for a Republican, I know there are many. I used to be a Democrat in a Democratic household. We have the first ever independent line, Protect Animals, created by my wife, Nancy, who rescues animals like so many of you. You can vote for me on the Protect Animals line. No-kill shelters, animal abusers go to jail. And then you can pray to your parents and grandparents and say, I voted for Curtis, but not on the Republican line. Do it. It's in the best interest of New York City, because I'm the real New Yorker in this race.
Curtis Sliwa, Republican nominee for mayor. Appreciate you.
5 times, Cheryl. Let's go for 6. But we're running out of time.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And now, our final focus. As we count down to Election Day, nonprofit organizations want the next mayor to pay attention to the affordability crisis. Here's Grace Bonilla of the United Way.
We talk to a lot of government officials, and when we talk to our state partners and they tell us that the state, because of the choices made at the federal level, will have a gaping hole of $13 billion, someone has to make that up. And the city is going to have to respond. So my urge to any candidate is that they look to make sure that New Yorkers are fed and that New Yorkers are healthy. We need a healthy New York in order to survive whatever's coming.
Plus, a quick programming note for you. In Focus will be on location next week at 2025 Somos Conference in Puerto Rico. We'll be talking with Democratic power brokers about the new legislative session in Albany and the next administration in City Hall. You don't want to miss it. Thanks so much for watching this special hour-long edition of In Focus. I'm Cheryl Wills. We appreciate you spending your Sunday with us.